B20, discuss and approve material revision for Golden Charter Academy, because the evening will go long, I know, and you have a lot of kiddos here that probably need to be in school tomorrow morning. So, can I get a motion and a second? We'll go right back on the job. Yes.
Any motion to change as proposed by board president?
Second. Okay, I have a motion by Trustee Casadas and a second by Clerk Davis. I need a roll call vote, please.
Board President Wittrip,
Aye.
Clerk Davis,
Aye.
Member Casares, Member Levine, Member Thomas, Member Islas.
Oh, sorry, thank
Thank you. Member Jonathan Rosas.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Will Felicia Elias and Susan Hatmaker please come to the podium for the presentation of agenda item B20?
Good evening, board members. Very happy to be here this evening. Good evening, Board President Woodruff, members of the board and the community, Superintendent interim of her, I was expecting Bob for a moment. My name is Felicia Elias, and I'm the director for the charter office. We are here this evening to introduce the staff of Golden Charter Academy, who will be presenting on agenda item B20. Specifically, Golden Charter Academy is requesting a material revision to their approved charter petition to increase their projected student enrollment and to note a future change of address. The main speakers this evening will be Robert Golden, Chief Executive Officer, and Principal Mandy Brewer. Accompanying Mr. Golden and Ms. Brewer is the Director of Finance, Jim Weber, Legal Counsel, Janelle Bruley, and Dan Sack, Project Coordinator. Susan Hatmaker is here this evening to help provide some more information regarding the material revision process.
Good evening, President Richard and the Board of Trustees. As Felicia mentioned, my name is Susan Hatmaker, and I'm legal counsel for Fresno Unified. The material revision that you have before you tonight is actually triggered by the memorandum of understanding between Golden Academy Charter and, sorry, I didn't mention congratulations, Superintendent Hurd. So it's triggered by the memorandum of understanding between Fresno Unified and Golden Academy Charter School. And so it's not a statutory trigger for the material revision, it is a contract trigger for the revision. So we are typically following the Ed Code process in the 47605 on the material revision. There is flexibility in what is considered by the board in determining whether or not to grant the material revision. There's also, it's important to note that there's a board policy related to the renewal process, which I could answer questions on. I know that we did board workshops that each of you were invited to with respect to the process, so I'm here to answer any questions that any of you may have with respect to that process. If you don't have any questions right now, I can certainly bring them up later, but basically after the presentation by Golden Charter, they'll explain their reasoning as to why they want to increase enrollment. They will also explain the new location and the change of address. And because the MOU indicates that material revision, that those two things, because they're increasing the enrollment more than 10% overall, and the change of facility is deemed a material revision by Golden Unified. So that is why they are coming before the board tonight.
Thank you. We have some comments by Trustee Islas.
I
Hi, thank you so much for coming before us. And I do have a question about something that you just said in terms of the trigger for this. So based on the information that I read, Golden Charter Academy isn't actually up for the conclusion or reconsideration until the end of 2026 or beginning of 2027. So is there something right now that is urgent about why it's coming before us?
Well, Golden Academy Charter wants to increase their enrollment, and they have a chart that you probably have reviewed. And the memorandum of understanding that's entered into and approved by the board between the Golden Academy Charter and Fresno Unified has a variety of instances where Fresno Unified has indicated and Golden Charter has agreed would be deemed material revisions. And so among the things, as an example, as I mentioned, is the change of facility, and also if any grade is either increased or decreased by 25%, or if the overall enrollment is increased or decreased by 10%. That is deemed, and the wording is changes to the charter deemed to be material revisions may be made only with prior approval from the district. Changes to the charter considered to be material revisions include but are not limited to the following. And for example, changing the name of the charter school, changes to location of facilities, substantive changes to admission requirements. So there's a variety of items that are listed in the MOU that Fresno Unified has determined, the board wants that opportunity to know about those material revisions and be able to make a decision on them because they consider it material.
Yeah, I understood that point. I guess what I'm asking is if for some reason it wasn't approved tonight, there is nothing that is imminent for the school in terms of closing or not being able to continue to function. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. The school would continue to function. They have their charter until the end of the school year 2026, upon which they will be up for renewal.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to understand. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Okay, any other questions?
Are we having a presentation?
Yeah,
Okay.
Mr. Golden, yeah.
And then we can ask questions after the presentation?
Yes.
Public comments?
We'll have public comments after the presentation and after the discussion.
Thank you. We're going to need the presentation up on the screen. Thank you.
Evening, Board President Woodrow, members of the board, interim Superintendent Hurd, congratulations. Thank you to the community, to everyone that's here, my Golden Charter Academy family. Appreciate you guys being here. I want to be able to present to you the nation's first TKPK Environmental Stewardship Zoo School. In this presentation, you're going to see stewardship, you're going to see equity, and you're going to see access. That's what we're here to provide for our students. And after our presentation, we'll be able to answer any questions that you may have.
Greetings, congratulations, welcome aboard. Little hands do big things in this great city of Fresno. Where we are informs who we are. Can I click right here? That seems to be doable. Here we go. They came to Golden Charter Academy because they had a love of learning for animals, the planet, and a curiosity to drive them to think and show up differently.
Before I came to Golden Charter Academy, I was in really bad grade. And since I came here, I'm learning a lot of things, and I'm doing better than I used to. I'm literally doing all types of math, types of reading, science, and it's awesome.
The work that they do here is extraordinary. At a TK level, my daughter has an expanded worldview that most 5-year-olds probably won't get until they're maybe 3rd or 4th grade. the outside of the classroom programs they have here are, I would say, world class. And I really think that this program here is creating the spark that will create a bonfire for our future generations here to change the world.
This group of kids was one of the most respectful and well-behaved that I've ever worked with, and very, very bright. They knew so much. I could not believe how much they knew.
They were some of the most academically curious and engaged students. They have a profound curiosity about everything that's happening around them, and I think that they just really appreciate being in this space. When we were learning about geology and hydrology, these groups were really focused and had so many good questions.
I had so much fun with the fourth graders. From the very first second I started talking to them, they were asking questions. Half of them raised their hand immediately. We didn't even have enough time to answer all their questions. So that is the first thing I look for when I'm looking for future scientists, is people that ask questions. They were also making really great observations, like saying, I noticed this, I see this, and then we were talking about what that meant and turning those into interpretation. So I just loved how interested they were and engaged the whole time. They were just curious and asking questions.
It was an invitation to be different, to change the existing paradigm of education. The nation's first ever TK-8 zoo school for environmental stewardship, right here in Fresno. They came to Golden Charter Academy because it offered them direct experience with nature and nurtured in them the care for community and place. It offered them a chance to be change makers here and now. Emboldened and empowered, they became Golden Charter Academy, and they came to make Fresno a more just, equitable, and sustainable place to call home. Little hands really do big things here at Golden Charter Academy. That's a theme for us every day of our lives. We are the Fresno School for Environmental Stewardship. We are proud of this place that we call home. We're the 5th largest city. We have $8 billion in agricultural revenue coming through, and we're a geologic wonderland. But also, we're here to address that we have the 2nd largest river. We live in this watershed and have water security. We're the epicenter of that. The tree equity score of the students with my zip codes is closer to 30. If I move up the 99, I'm closer to a score of 100, which means I have more trees. And if you really want to get into this whole concept of carbon caps and all of that, you can pollute in one zip code and you can plant trees in another. And as long as I plant enough trees somewhere in Fresno, I can get my carbon caps, right? Our students are here to address these problems. Our students right now are here making your Fresno a better place, and they're only TK through 5th grade. The California Environmental Protection Agency says that we here in Fresno lead California with asthma rates. It's the #1 health issue that my students face on a daily basis. The 2020 study from the Trust for Public Land said we had one of the worst park systems among the 50 most populous U.S. cities. Guess what? We're trying to make urban green space livable, habitable, by planting trees, by planting pollinator gardens all over this great city. And we're trying to address water issues from our urban needs, our agriculture needs, right now, as elementary school students. Every project, every unit of study, everything is geared to putting their hands to work right now in Fresno. Golden Charter Academy has this as our student success profile. So when we're asking for a 17% increase in enrollment, it's because we have 600 students that are asking to put me in nature, to put me to work in my city right now. They see our social media, they hear about our students talking about their learning, and they want to be part of that. Who wouldn't want to be part of this? To think critically at a systems level, to be expert learners, to feel inspired, to feel like they belong, to feel like they're connected to this place, and that they're powerful enough right now to make a change. And they act. They want to act in the best interest for this community. So this is an investment. As a community school, as a leader among community schools here in Fresno County, we don't run from those challenges. We're rising to meet them. And the 17% increase enrollment that we're asking for in that material revision ensures that there are more people ready to address those challenges to create a 21st century Fresno that is more equitable and more sustainable.
Good evening, Janelle Rowley with Legal Counsel for the Charter School. Thanks for your additional time tonight. We certainly were gratified to review staff's recommendation for approval of this material revision. Really, really glad to see that. As to the requested enrollment, the fiscal impact on the district is going to be minimal. Golden Charter Academy's request only an average of about 6 students per grade level, plus 1 additional TK class. This amounts to 78 students, only about 0.1% of the district's overall overall enrollment. And that assumes that all students who would come, all additional students who would come are from Fresno. They may not be. This is not a significant impact on the district, but it would be a significant impact on this charter school to be able to bring in some of the students on their wait list. We also wanted to remind the board of the operative legal requirement here from Education Code Section 47605. What it says is, in the event of a drawing, meaning that more students apply than can attend, the chartering authority, the district board, shall make reasonable efforts to accommodate the growth of the charter school and shall not take any action to impede the charter school from expanding enrollment to meet pupil demand. And I would lastly say respectfully, there is an urgency, and the urgency is right here. There's an urgency to do this now. There's 700 students on the wait list. This is a tiny fraction of that, but it helps Golden get in that direction of serving the students in. So thanks, I'm going to turn it back to Mandy, I think, yeah.
And we're growing. We're really young. We're a young school. I think we're now 2.87 years old. And we're growing. Now, we can talk dashboard data. I know everybody's interested in dashboard data, but we're growing year over year across grade levels in our most consistent metric. That was reading, business, math, and holy cow, that's science. I'd like to remind everybody that the California dashboard is there's one isolated metric that happens once a year. The trajectory at Golden Charter Academy at our young age is growth on our most consistent metric. We use the NWEA measured academic progress. We are inside our 3rd year of a 6-year school formation term approved by Fresno Unified. We are resourced and we're focused on refining GCA's best practices of place-based learning, environmental education, and universal design for learning. And each year since our opening, GCA has expanded instructional capacity and increased instructional quality. So much so that if we run side-by-side numbers, GCA's 3rd grade, last year's 4th grade, we only had 2 years of data. They went from a 5.56% proficient or exceeded standard on the SBAC ELA to a 15.22. That is a 9.66% absolute increase and a 274% proportional increase. Not one of the other 7 comparison schools that were listed inside of our charter petition increased that much in its 2nd year of operation. In fact, the closest, which is Lowell, gained 5% absolute gain and 114% increase in proportional gain. We are serious about our students learning and our students having the ability to speak truth to power and to solve those complex problems of the 21st century. We are with them in this, and we are increasing the ability for them to show that learning and are excited to grow with that. We have an average daily attendance rate of about 93.3%, and we are decreasing that chronic absenteeism that showed up on the dashboard last year. Right now we're sitting at about 6% decrease. Remember, I have students and asthma rates more than any place in California. When illness hits them, and they mainly miss primarily for illness and transportation issues. When they have illness, it's not just I'm sick for a day and I'm back. When you have serious asthma rates happening in your school, a little cold can ripple through. We've invested resources in our own social emotional learning and our own instructional programs to make sure we can get closer to students in our community schools work. But this is a serious thing for us because we know that when they're in school, they do better. And 96.5% of them want to return for the next year. 96.5%. And we built a wait list of over 600 students. What we're doing matters, and people are interested in this kind of work, where I can put my hands to work in my community, where I can learn about stewardship, learn about science, be in nature, learn about my place, use that as a classroom.
Thank you, Principal Mandy. GCA, we are stable and sustainable from a financial standpoint. And the next one. And this is where we want to go. When I retired from the NFL, I came back to my hometown and said that I was going to offer a world-class educational opportunity, and I was going to build a state-of-the-art facility for our students. I come from Southwest Fresno, one of the worst areas, most underserved, most under-resourced areas in our valley, in our state. And I said that I want to give our students the absolute best. When we came here for the material revision, we only wanted to add 17%. But we also know that we were developing this project that is currently in planning stages. We're going through the planning stage. We have a by right project. We purchased the land already. It's in escrow for the other parcel of it. And once we get the approval from planning, we will continue to move on with our permits. We hired a general contractor. We secured funding to do this project. Now, we are ahead of you today without having permits for this permanent facility. However, we are in process with planning, and this is a by right project. A by right project, which means by right, this parcel, we can build a school there that is zoned for a school. And I do have my project coordinator, Dan Zach, who used to work for the city of Fresno, to explain any more or answer any more questions. We're not just here to offer a world-class educational opportunity and a state-of-the-art facility, but we're here for community change. And I will appreciate if you guys will allow us to add 78 students over the next 3 years. And in 2025, when this state-of-the-art facility adjacent to the Fresno Chapel Zoo is ready, let our students experience something that's great and that's golden. Thank you.
Do we have any questions, any discussion points? Trustee Eastless?
Thank you. I do have some questions about the presentation, but I want to begin by saying that I think the mission of Golden Charter Academy is fantastic. I love your focus on environmental justice. We definitely need more voices, and raising the next generation of environmental justice advocates is a very, very worthy cause. And having said that, I do have some questions that I would like to pose and have addressed. So my first question is, in the presentation, there is a comment that says that there will be no fiscal impact upon Fresno Unified School District. However, in the staff report, in the financial analysis, there is definitely a fiscal impact. And when we add up the 3 years of the estimate on the fiscal impact, it totals over $1 million, 1.6 million, a little over. So I did have a question for clarity on that. Is there or is there not a fiscal impact?
The cover letter said that there would not be a substantial fiscal impact, and that's what we intended to communicate. So a 0.1% of the district's overall enrollment, we didn't think would be a substantial fiscal impact.
And again, given the sort of climate that we're in, these dollars do matter. Over almost 500K is important. But I have more questions, so let me move on from that. I just wanted to get that cleared, that there is in fact a fiscal impact, albeit I'll give you that it seems smaller, not as substantial. My second question is really about the comments on the academics. I'm not familiar with NWEA. I know that for our assessments, we're looking at the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress. And so my question is, why wouldn't we ask a charter to share the same data sets?
Why, the question is, why would we not use the same data sets as Fresno Unified?
Exactly, yeah.
We can, if that's gonna get this material revision through.
Right.
So the charter school
She's just picky.
is administering all of the same state tests that the district does. The Northwest Evaluation Association, for charter schools, they need to, in addition to state assessments, also pick from a list that state board has approved of verified data. And Northwest Evaluation Association is on that list of verified data. And so it happens to be the assessment that Golden Charter Academy picked. The state board did a long study and determined what are the nationally recognized, nationally normed tests, and that's what this is.
So I have another question also in the reference to a waiting list in the, one of the reports that list indicated that it was at 600 students, but I think in the presentation, the table that was shared had just a little over 400 students. So can I get conclusion on that? Is it 600 or is it the 470 something?
To be exact, trustee, it's actually 646. When we submitted our charter petition for material revision, I believe it was at 497. We did our lottery on April 12th, where we were able to admit only 6 students from our waiting list, and most of them came for our TK classrooms. But since we submitted our material revision, our waiting list has grew about 200 students extra since then. And that was
Thank you.
Back in February, I believe it was. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Golden. I appreciate you addressing that. And I have a few questions on the remarks that you made, because you did mention that you didn't have permits secured. I did a little due diligence as I was looking through the agenda items, and I do understand that the city has come back with requests for additional information in order to move forward with your project. So is there a timeline for when you anticipate getting approval?
Yes, well, any project that goes through city and planning, there's back and forth comments that happen for any building that's being built. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a by right project, which means that we have the right to do that. I also have Dan Zach, who's a city planner and also been a consultant with Golden Charter Academy throughout this process, and Dan can give you a little bit more information on that.
Yes, so the project is allowed by right in the neighborhood mixed-use zone that the site is located in. Our entitlement applications were submitted in November, have been under review since then, and we've been waiting for a traffic study to be completed, which was requested by the Public Works Department. We just submitted that on Friday of last week, so that's under review. And we're working through that and the nuances of the design of the trash enclosure. And this should be the remaining issues to resolve the planning review and get that notice of official action issued. I would expect within the next 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay, so we're looking at a potential, at least another month, but of course the city could also ask for more information. I do see in your material revision a timeline that shows the potential completion date of November in 2025, so November of next year. Is that correct?
Yes, as I mentioned, right now we're still going through planning and permitting, so our construction timeline is estimates right now. Until we have permits, we will not know for sure what that timeline looks like. However, our projected move-in date is August of 2025 to be inside of this facility. So yes, we do plan to be there in 2025.
Okay, so I just have a question about like why now, Mr. Golden, like given that, you know, the school isn't ready for you to move in quite yet. It seems also just from the report that you all haven't actually the cap yet in terms of what was allowed in student enrollment. So my question to you is just like, why come forward with this request for material review now instead of waiting, within that August of 2025, for example, you would still be within the time frame of your potential, agreement to continue as a charter school. I just wonder if you can address the why now. Why is this urgent now?
Yes, thank you for the question. Well, we have over 600 students on a waiting list.
Right.
So a demand is there. And if we can serve all 645 or however many students we have on that wait list, if we can serve them all, I would love to. I would love to give them this world-class educational opportunity. But to be able to, allow 78 more students over the course of 3 years, that is what we want to do, just to give those students and those families an opportunity. But again, too, when we're talking about 78 students that we're adding, remember that we're adding an additional TK class, which is 20 students. We have 2 TK classes, which will amount to 40 students. So we're talking about roughly 38 students that we're going to be adding in upper grades, just to really give our students an opportunity to experience what we're doing. And as I mentioned before, my overall goal was to come to this board this year and do a student enrollment increase. However, because we are going to be moving in this new facility and because we purchased the land and because we have an address that we currently own, it was recommended by staff that we add the enrollment increase and the material revision for location change as well too, on one material revision instead of doing a material revision this year for an enrollment increase and a material revision next year for a location change. So that is why we come into the board today in regards to this project and also to the 17% or 78 students that we're looking to add over 3 years.
Mr. Boland, I think it's admirable. The mission that you're doing is on point. I really respect it and want to support it. I think my struggle today is that you don't have permits. There is still going to be time for to address that in terms of the building. When I look at the schematic of what you shared, it doesn't include playground. The playground is actually, as I understand it from your diagram, would be across the street. You're looking to purchase another parcel. So is that additional parcel land that you also own now, or are you still planning to purchase that portion?
Yes, and in fact, there is a playground on our campus. I'm not sure what you saw, but there is a playground inside of our campus. But we are planning on purchasing, not really purchasing, but having an additional green space available for our students as well too. And mind you, we are right across the street from the Fresno Chaffee Zoo, who is our founding partner, which is located in Roding Park, which has some of the most green space in Southwest Fresno. So there will be plenty of green space for our students. But yes, in addition to the playground that we have on our current site, we will also be having extra green space at 841 West Belmont. And if you look on the north east corner of that lot where you see your TK and kindergarten area, it should be a playground area right there that you can see as well too.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if facilities had a chance to review this, because I do think that there are recommendations in terms of the volumes of students that you have in the space. I do know for TK, oftentimes in our schools, we're having to separate to create separate space for them versus the rest of the student population. Yes, so I don't think that, okay, I don't think that there was an explanation of that in what was shared. But I think I'm coming to the end of my questions. I did have, just to go back, I want to just restate for the record some concerns. And one is that when you do look at the dashboard data, although it wasn't shared, you used the Northwestern data, there does seem to be a deficiency in comparison with the state, in comparison with Fresno Unified, in comparison with the other elementary groups. So there is some challenges, it seems, with meeting academics and language arts, with math when you do that. There does also seem to be some chronic absenteeism in comparison with these So I'm concerned about that, and I'm wondering if we couldn't perhaps wait just to see an improvement in some of that, as well as maybe wait to get some assurance that the city is in fact going to allow the establishment of the project. Again, I'm not suggesting not to approve. I'm just simply asking if we can wait until we get some confirmation on the improvement and the allowance to build. And I would be willing to separate that, right? Like I'd be willing to maybe move forward on the expansion, but maybe hold until we get more assurances from the city on the building moving forward. So I did just want to offer that as a motion for consideration to my colleagues on the board for us to potentially postpone approval on both these items, but in particular on the building itself.
And yes, can I address that? Just to let you know that, as Mandy mentioned, we are 2.872 years in existence, and a 6-year charter approval. So by that, we do have time to grow and develop our program. That is what we are here to do. When you talk about when we opened this school in 2021, right after the pandemic, we opened this school with transitional kinder through 3rd grade. The only ones that tested in SBAC was our 3rd graders. Well, guess what? When they came to us, they came from somewhere, and they wasn't on grade level when they got
Thank you. Hello.
So if you expect us to get our students proficient in a matter of 8 months, that's a tough task. But if you look at our growth over time in NWEA, and if you look at our attendance at 93%, we are showing significant growth on a daily basis. And when you also talk about our project, it's a by right project. We are going through planning. Any facility, any building that's ever been built, it has to go through planning. They have to come back with their comments, and we come back with our comments. We have an architect on board, we got a general contractor on board, we got project managers on board, and we got someone that's our consultant who used to be over the planning department for the city of Fresno. We're going through the process, just like any other process that is required. And these permits and these plans, they will be approved because we're working at them every single day. It's a by right project, must I remind you, a by right project. We bought the property, we got the right to build a school there.
Yep.
President Elizabeth, just a reminder, before any action is taken, we'll need to get public comment on this item.
Yes, and we have other people asking questions too, but we do have a motion to change this, or should we wait for that?
Okay. Before any action,
okay.
We should get the public comment.
We have other members who have questions, and I'll start with Trustee Levine.
Thank you for the presentation, the overview of the work you're all doing. I have 1 or 2 questions for each of the 2 pieces of the material revision request. On the first order on the moving the property piece of it, which that's not a technical term of the request, but on that piece, so maybe this is a question for Ms. Solis. So what if it's all going through permitting still, if it's an ongoing process, what are we approving tonight then on that piece of it? If it's not, we're giving our blessing for Golden Charter to go through that process. Is that essentially what the request is approving?
Yes, to allow them to come. These people have degrees.
The approval tonight would allow Golden Charter Academy to continue on with its plans. And essentially, that's what the school is asking for in the material revision.
Okay. So actually, if you don't mind staying up there for a question then on the first piece of the material revision around the enrollment increase of 78 students, 17% increase, essentially coming out of increase of 6 students per grade level. I'm not obviously exactly, but
that's an average.
So the only confusion I've got is the 600. What did you say, Mr. Golden? The 680, 200 plus
45, 49, somewhere around there.
So, yeah, that's obviously a significant number, speaking to the need and the interest and just the telling number. But your current enrollment cap is 448. And is your current student population 336, or has that gone up since the report?
About 336, 331, somewhere around there, yeah.
So I'm sorry if this is like, this is an obvious answer to this, but with you've got a significant waiting list, and that's like 112 students, you're under your current enrollment cap. Like, why are you not able to get to that current number?
Yes, because there will be more than a 10% enrollment increase by year. We're adding a grade level every single year. So right now we're transitional kinder through 5th. Next year we'll be transitional kinder through 6th. And when we do the enrollment increase, we will be over that 10%, which will cause for the material revision that we're asking for by adding those amount of students.
I see. So the 440, so the current 336 is your current. That's your current cap.
Yes, and it's by enrollment every year, so not the overall enrollment, but the amount of students that we have enrolled each year.
Yes. So the 336 roughly is where that's the max you can serve. 448 would be the max you could serve in
full enrollment. Correct.
In 2 years from now.
No, that would be 3 years from now.
Okay. So then the request then is effective that date. Using that number at 78.
Yes, we'll continue to add students every single year. So right now we're looking to add about 6 students, 6 more students per grade level, 3 more students per class. So with the additional enrollment increase from kindergarten going all the way up to 6th grade next year, it will exceed that 10% cap that will cause grounds for material revision.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks for clarifying that. Last question then, just around back to the student achievement kind of conversation. Your point's absolutely well taken around where your students started when they entered, or they're entering in this year, and sort of looking at it into insurance superintendent's comments earlier, like we need to look at certainly the objective, the actual current scores, but also growth over time. So that's well taken. When you come back for your renewal request in 2027, just curious if you have thoughts around when that'll be. You'll have gone through 5 years of testing, roughly around that by then. What should we expect to see in terms of what should the actual objective scores that we should measure that look like at that time?
Awesome. Thanks for asking that question, man. I tell you what, when you look at our K through 2nd graders that actually started with us and haven't had any other experience, they're outperforming the national norm, pre-COVID norm. So if our students stay on that trajectory, wow, this would be one of the best schools that Fresno Unified School District has ever seen.
Yes.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Trustee Casadas.
I have a couple of questions too, but first, in general, will staff also be providing a presentation or anything besides what's in the staff report? Will you be providing any other presentation apart from what's already been submitted in the staff report?
No, just any questions that you have, we're going to.
Okay, so the main question, of course, and I'll just piggyback off what Trustee Levine was mentioning, is that there's information provided to us that shows, again, the SBAC comparison. So can staff talk to that so that we could clarify that once and for all? And why there's a difference between, there's a difference between our FUSDs and State California versus Golden Star Academy as far as the SBAC scores. What's your opinion on that? Is what I want to know.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Through the material revision, we've learned a lot. And one of the things about the SBAC process is that it is for all schools in the state of California, and every school responds differently. The charters have a unique challenge because of the time that they start the petition. In this particular case, Golden Charter Academy is a newer school, and they started out with 1 grade level to test on. The NWEA is a common alternative assessment that many of our charters use in Fresno Unified. One of our charters, in particular Daily Elementary, uses NWEA as well as an alternative assessment. And they use those assessments to help gauge how students are progressing in between the time where they take that one-time assessment in April and May. So they're constantly using the data to help inform their instruction.
So I guess my question is, in your opinion, given the the age of the charter academy and what they started off testing, I think they understand that as well. That Fresno Unified, all this board should take that into account when we're looking at the disparity in the numbers and the test scores between both charter academy and other comparable students.
Yes, I think it should be taken.
Okay, I see where you're coming from. And then I also, I wanted to clarify, I think maybe this is kind of like lost in the presentation is, it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Golden Charter Academy came to Fresno Unified for the enrollment change. And then staff said, oh, why did you add to that the site change since you already started down that process? And so there is an ability for us to maybe move that, the site transfer process to another date. I'm not saying that I want to go down that route, but because the original request was enrollment change, I would suggest that we stick to that because they requested, right? Is that true?
Yes, but at the same time, in our approved charter petition that was approved for 6 years, in that charter petition, we wrote that we were going to develop a state-of-the-art facility adjacent to the Fresno Chaffee Zoo, and that is our intended
That was my
impact.
next comment.
Yeah,
You beat me to it.
Thank you.
Is that when we approved this, we
Yes.
knew clearly
Yes.
from the beginning that you were not going to stay at your current location
Yes.
permanently, that was not your permanent location.
That's
You
true.
were actually looking to move closer to the zoo. So
Absolutely.
we've got to take that into account also. That's part of what we approved for the Golden Charter Academy.
That's right.
What I just want to, if there's some apprehension from some of the trustees to move that forward, I don't want that to stop you from requesting the enrollment change.
Yeah, and I also know too, when it comes to material revisions, as you guys get the binders, it is a lot of work. So I'm definitely in favor with staff when they were like, well, since the property has already been purchased and you guys are going through this whole permitting process, why not just do 2 in 1? That way you don't have to put this whole thing together again several months away from now. So I was in favor of that, and my team and I, we really appreciated the recommendation to do it this way, given the fact that we do have an architect, a general contractor, and project managers on board to make sure this project goes through.
Mr. Well, who is the architect on the project?
The world-renowned Arthur Dyson, who designed University High School.
This is the building on top of the wall, like building the floor.
Yes, and it's also very aligned with our mission. If you look on the outside of that building, those are solar voltaic panels that are operable. So depending on where the sun is shining, they will be able to open and close and provide our students with a lot of natural sunlight. That way they're not sitting under fluorescent lights, which will not give them the 20/20 vision that their eyesight is looking to develop.
Yes. All right.
When we develop this site, it does have indoor, outdoor classrooms components to it. Our multi-purpose room has indoor, outdoor access to it as well too. But we really want to expose our students to all of the natural environments that this great Central Valley and Fresno City has to offer us. If you look at this facility
I do
from
have
the...
another question for staff, if you don't
Sure.
mind.
No problem, sorry.
I know your presentation, I know you're very passionate about it. Let me follow up with let me end my part so that anybody else can go. I have a question for staff.
Cool.
So this state, the country, probably the whole world is going into less revenues for our facilities, our teachers, all that. So I know that we have to keep in the back of our mind how much money are we losing because of the enrollment. Understandably, not all of your enrollment is going to be from Fresno Unified. It probably isn't all Fresno Unified kids right now. But I know there's also a fine line that this board has to walk in terms of how much we weigh. We take that into consideration when we weigh our options, because from my understanding in the materials is we actually cannot take that into consideration. We cannot take the impact to Fresno Unified's budget into consideration as part of this decision. Tell me if I'm right or wrong on that. We're not supposed to. I don't know. Maybe it's.
It is part of the review process. We have our fiscal department do the analysis of the budgets that are submitted. And in that process, they look at all factors and make a determination of what the impact is. They do not provide a summary or a clause that says that We think that this should be approved or not, it's just been understanding what the impact is.
So just kind of to provide trustees a little background on the part that Physical Services has in the charter approval and renewal and then processes. We look to see if fundamentally the charter is financially stable and looks to be financially stable in the out years. We do an analysis as to the financial impact on the district, but that is not part of the approval or denial process. We're looking at.
Tell me what that means.
What that effectively means is that we look at the charter's financial stability when we make a determination as to whether or not, so when staff recommends moving forward with the charter, that's based on their financial stability and their ability, because our primary concern would be if the charter was not financially stable and were to close, leaving students without a place to go to school, obviously. So that's the lens that we look at when we look at that review. We calculate the number of financial impact on the district, but that is not part of the calculation as far as staff's financial recommendation as for an approval, renewal, or material change.
That actually answers my question. Thank you. Clerk Davis.
Thank you. When I get something in front of me, the first thing I always try to ask myself is this good for kids? And I'm very impressed with what we've seen and what you've told us. I know that you plan to open this in 2025, but what is your contingency plan and what happens if you should default on that?
Trustee Davis, for the question. Yes, our goal is to open in this facility in 2025, and given where we're at right now, we need the stars and the moon to align. We're aware of that, and that is why we have our team with their boots on the ground all day. However, based upon our current lease that we have right now for Golden Charter Academy and our temporary site, that lease goes through 2026. So we have been able to add modulars to our campus to accommodate our growing program. And if push comes to shove that we are unable to move into our new facility by the start of the fall of 2025, we will already be in motion to add 2 more modulars to accommodate our 7th graders.
I've been on this board long enough to remember when University High was first in a lab school or trailers out there by the old music building, and it was a pipe dream to build University High School.
Yes.
And all we could do is wish them well and watch them take it to the next level. And University High School is a hallmark high school in charter world in the nation.
Yes,
So I look forward.
Thank you, Trustee Davis. And just to also add to that as well, too, Golden Charter Academy has been awarded $22 million in new market allocations. Projects all around the world is trying to get tax credits. We receive those tax credits to make sure that we move this project forward, not only because this project is worthy of being in Fresno, but because this is a community project that people locally and nationally have supported, including our president, Joe Biden, who recently just wrote our students a letter this week. So we're receiving a lot of local and national attention, and eyes are on us, and we know that we got to perform not only academically, but continue to serve our community holistically, for sure.
So you're asking basically for a +8 per grade level?
+6.
+6?
Yes.
That's up to 78 students per year?
No, over 3 years, it'll be 78
years.
students, yes.
And a change of address, but you do have a contingency plan should, the electricity or the plumbing or something doesn't work, that you would still house and take care of your students.
That is correct, and our team is tracking that every single day. We have a project meeting every Tuesday, and we are following this progress very closely.
Building is complicated. Hope everything goes well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Jonathan Rosas.
Thank you. A lot of what I was going to ask has already been covered. Maybe I'll start with a few questions for Ms. Hatmaker regarding some of the legal stuff, just because I want to make sure I'm absolutely clear as to the parameters of our consideration now And then in addition to, there was a comment made about the legality of looking at enrollment, and that we were obliged, I guess, to do everything we can to help with enrollment. Can you speak to those two items, please?
Yes, thank you for the question. In Education Code 4605, it does indicate that a charter school shall admit all pupils who wish to attend the charter school. And if the individuals that want to attend exceed the capacity, it goes into a public random drawing. And what legal counsel for Golden Charter pointed out is in the event of a drawing, the chartering authority, that's Fresno Unified, shall make reasonable efforts to accommodate the growth of the charter school and shall not take any action to impede the charter school from expanding enrollment to meet pupil demand. So that is the reference, and that is directly in Education Code 47605.
Okay, and what about the parameters of our discussion for consideration today?
As I mentioned in the intro, there is flexibility in your, what you consider your discussion points. You pretty much anything is on the table as far as consideration and discussing. But you are, kind of guided by, this is a charter school that has a waiting list, that has demand. And so that is a good guiding principle for the board to take a look at. And so, one could argue that, a vote against the enrollment would be impeding the growth of the charter school. And so this charter school, and I think, even from the outset, and the fact that they mentioned the facility in the first round when they became chartered, was a growth attitude and a larger facility, etc. So I don't think it probably comes as a big surprise to the trustees that charter school is seeking that.
Understood. I just wanted to make sure we're all clear. And I think I have a slightly different take, and maybe, I don't know if this is for you or for someone else, but I know we, or at least I, was looking forward to the move, especially as the charter school got into the older grades because of the Healthy Youth Act and some of the concerns with the lease. And so I know that there are several things that could happen, even with by right, that could lengthen the development process and push it out. And so my concern at that point is if it does get pushed out, what happens with compliance with that and the lease? Has anyone looked into that?
So the lease goes through 25-26, and the charter school will be through 7th grade at that point. They do need to provide that instruction by 8th grade. So if they are in their new facility by 2026-2027 school year, that won't be an issue. And if they're not in their facility, if they need to extend the lease where they currently are, then they will need to, what it will be is it'll be a breach of their lease potentially, and the individuals that would go after, so to speak, a breach would be the Catholic, the diocese, I think is who they have that, who they have the lease with. From Fresno Unified's perspective as the chartering authority, we do want to ensure that charter schools follow the law and that they provide the instruction that the law requires. And in this situation, if they were to need to extend the lease and go into the 26-27 school year, there would need to be some sort of accommodation that they would work through at that time so that they can teach that course, whether it's on their own campus or maybe a site outside of the campus so that they can fulfill the requirements of the California law. And I don't know if they have any contingency plans on that, but that's something certainly that the charter review team would work through with them so that they could ensure that the children are taught in accordance with California law.
And you mentioned 8th grade. It was my understanding that I thought 6th grade was when we had to start incorporating some of those components. Am I correct in that?
Okay, so my memory is going back to 2020 when we had this discussion, and I believe it was in the middle school. So so long as they teach it by 8th grade, and I might be mistaken on that, and I can certainly look it up. But that's what I recall when this became an issue during the charter granting process.
Okay, for me, that would be an issue because I fully believe in making sure that our kids have access to that younger, at appropriate grade levels. But in any event, that's important to me. So maybe I can ask. I have one more question for staff if they know about this, and then I'll pass my comments over to Mr. Golden. Can we, sorry, so I think this might be for you, Ms. Hatmaker, as well. I know there's a motion on the table to separate. Is that something that can be done?
Sure, you can separate that if the majority of the board feels that it's premature for approval of the site. But it was President Unified staff that recommended the material revision be in one. It's perfectly fine to approve that now, but if it's the will of the board to postpone it for a period of time, that can be done as well. There's nothing illegal about that.
Understood. Would the charter school have to agree to the bifurcation, or can it be done unilaterally?
I mean, it can be done unilaterally, but I think what Mr. Golden presented was the way the purchase of the property is they bought the property and they have the right to build the school. So from the perspective of the charter review team, that's in process, and so it's just a matter of when the construction is done, but he's representing it will happen, everyone's in place, so it really is up to the board and the trustees on your discussion points on the timing of that, but I think it gives them, and I think that's why the President Unified staff recommended it, it gives them the security of knowing that this board approves the site, and that they're supportive of their move to that site.
Understood. I'm not wanting to construe this as well we're in favor one way or another. I just want to make sure that however we proceed, we're not putting the district in any sort of jeopardy.
So first it's the district, then it's the children.
The district in jeopardy by postponing it, but certainly if it was time for them to change, to move into a new facility, then you certainly need to make a decision at that point.
Okay, so now I have a couple of questions for Mr. Golden. I know you spoke a little bit about the timing, and I was just wondering if there were any other factors that were dependent on enrollment, maybe financing for the building or the project or anything like that.
Yes, and I do want to address Trustee Johnson Rosa, that we are a place-based education school, which means that we can do school anywhere and any place. And when we do go on these different field experiences, our students are not on a field trip, they are in class. So we are able to do school anywhere and any place, literally, when it comes to being able to educate our students with what they need. From a project standpoint, I do want to highlight that we are working with Pacific Charter School Development, PCSD that is, which is a world-recognized charter school developer. They have developed over thousands of schools near and far, and that is the team that we have working with us. So when it comes to getting permits and going through the planning process, this won't be their first rodeo. We understand what needs to be done in order for us to make this all happen. So as I mentioned, we have a general contractor, an architect, a project manager, and Pacific Charter School Development is the ones that is really helping us move this whole mission forward. So that is my response. I hope I answered your questions. If I did not, let me know.
Yes, and thank you for alluding to the first question, because I do care about our students being able to receive that education, and furthermore, our LGBTQ identifying students to be able to feel safe. And so for me, maybe I'm coming at this a little differently than my colleagues. The place, the move is important for me as you move to expand to different grades. So hearing.
And our pillars, as I said earlier before, is stewardship, is equity, and is access. When you come on Golden Charter Academy, you will see that. It's not a mission statement for us. We live it, we breathe it, and you can see it. If you come visit us on our campus at Golden Charter Academy anytime.
Thank you. I would like you to talk a little bit about, I'm sure you have this data, how many or what percentage of your students currently come from within Fresno Unified boundaries?
We have about 30% of zip codes in Fresno Clovis represented. I don't have the exact numbers. Your staff has the numbers of exactly what zip codes are represented, how many are from Fresno Unified. So I can turn that over to the staff.
If I may, I want to add one thing to one of your questions, and it's the timing of the facility approval. I just wanted to point out, historically,
For them being worried about children, they sure do.
Would expect a charter
Keep it
school
long
to
enough to where they
at
can.
least a full year in advance for a facility change. So typically
It is
in the
now
fall,
8:54,
early
and they're
fall,
asking
we
all these
encourage
questions,
if
not
school is
allowing
going to change the facility to come forward. So
the parents to
if
say
they did
anything,
meet
because
that
parents are now
mark of
leaving.
December 2025, that would
Because
be
we're getting
around
close to
November
9 o'clock.
2024. That, and even before that, would the charter review team would start the provision. I just wanted to make that point.
Yes, understood. And I know financing and banks and like to look at you're approved for something before they give you the money to do it, so I understand that much.
Trustee Johnson Roses, I'd like to provide the information regarding the School of Residence for our charter schools. The Golden Charter Academy, we base this on period 10 enrollment, and the numbers may not exactly match the material revision petition, but I can provide by district. Golden Charter Academy, your current enrollment for period 10 was 314 students. And of those 314 students, 243 were within the Fresno Unified School District. 44 were within the Central Unified School District. 22 were within the Clovis Unified School District. 2 were from Madera Unified County, and 1 from Sanford. Broken down by trustee area, if you would like that. Would you like me to proceed?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Not
even letting nobody talk.
Trustee Thomas's area.
Crazy.
There are 31 students, which represents 13%. In Trustee Johnson Rose's area with 16 students with 7%. In Trustee Davis's area, it is 19 students with 8%. In Trustee Eastlis's area, 21 students with 9%. In Trustee Levine's area is 76 students with 33%. In Trustee Caceres' area, it is 37 students with 16%. And in President Woodruff's area, in the Boulder region, is 33 students and 14%.
Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, and then I know we talked a little bit about academics and you hit on absenteeism. Can you talk a little bit about your absenteeism rates as they stand and some of the interventions, some of the root causes and some of the interventions?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. Root cause, hands down, is illness, prolonged illnesses. So we are working with our networked improvement community cohort that we've just joined, that's Fresno County Cradle to Career and the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools, to work with these families to get wraparound services to these families quicker and get them access to social safety net programming quicker. We're in the process of, through our community schools, we're adding a social worker and a community health worker. We know that our families need some uplift, and so we're there to help them with that because they're the ones that have to drive those students to school. We do not have busing to the school, so we rely on carpools or we rely on families to drive it over. The change of the address also helps us get a little bit closer to our families, and we're hoping also to advocate hard on public transportation and pedestrian and bike lanes to also assist our older students with more independent transportation. But we've added more to our student services department through the community schools work that we're doing to create more connection between home and school. And if they can't get to school, we're working on programming to basically get school to them.
Got it. Okay. I appreciate all of your enthusiasm, and I look forward to hearing from the community. I've already heard from several people over the couple of years of the program and their experience. So I appreciate, again, the passion and the reaching out. Look forward to continuing the discussion on this. I do want to end on sort of a note, because I think, we approach all these charter school petitions holistically and from a point, each one of us has a point of view, and I'll share mine. I firmly believe that charter schools have to provide something different and something better than Fresno Unified currently provides. And so that's the lens that I view charter schools and charter school efforts in the district. If you're not going to be better and different, then what's the point, right? And so that's the lens with which I view, the lens with where my questions come from. And viewing things to make sure that everything's in the best interest of our kids and that our kids are excelling and feeling that in a good environment. And from what I hear from parents and community, I've not heard anything but great things about the experience that parents have had at Golden. And I hope that's not ominous and I start getting a bunch of calls, but I just wanted to share that. And I want to hear what the community has to say, and I know Trustee Les has also had her hand up, so I look forward to continued discussion.
Thank you.
It's now 9 o'clock.
Comments, and then we'll go to student Trustee Pitcher and Trustee Thomas, and then Trustee Eastless. So I just have some questions for Golden Charter people. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'm excited about what you're doing at Golden Charter and the zoo. It's very exciting for kids. I'm wondering that I know that you have a vulnerable population because they weren't progressing in Fresno Unified Schools as you should, and you're offering them something different and innovative. How do you serve and support children and students with special needs at Golden Charter?
Yes, and I'll invite Principal Mandy up, but as I mentioned earlier, we're about stewardship, equity, and access. So when you look at our program and how we approach our curriculum and the lens that we view it through universal design for learning. And universal design for learning is designed to break down all barriers for students. So Trustee, you may be an audio learner. I may be a visual learner. Trustee Thomas, you may need to have a hands-on manipulative learning. Well, that is what we provide our students through our UDL inclusive program that we do at our school. So our special needs students, they are able to sit inside of gen ed classrooms and receive those services and that attention that they need to make sure that they are growing and getting the access that they need. We have a teacher and we have a learning guide, which many of them are here tonight, inside of every classroom. Plus we have an ed specialist, and plus we have other literacy mentors. So at any given time, there can be 2 or 4 adults inside of a classroom of 24 students. Principal Mandy, if you want to add any more color to that, awesome. Thank you.
And the next question is for the literacy component and the math. I know that you're showing growth and you're a new charter school, and so your scores on iReady or SBAC, maybe not, doesn't tell the whole story, but they are low. I mean, they are low. What are you doing to improve reading proficiency specifically at your school and math achievement? Because that is going to be a big lift, and it's a very important lift.
Absolutely, and it's a lift that we signed up for. When you look at our charter petition, we said that we want to serve all students, especially the underserved and the under-resourced and the students that aren't thriving in our public school systems. So that is what we said that we wanted to do, and my team and I, we know what we signed up for, and every single day we've been able to chip away, not only at getting our students proficient, but giving them the resources and the needs that they need in order to be able to thrive in our educational environment.
Just a little bit more specific than that.
Sure, and I was getting to that. We also have a new partnership that we're working with that's been able to bring on a math coach. We also have a literacy coach. We're working with instruction partners who works with a lot of different schools all around the world, high class, come from highly recommended from Silicon schools. So we were able to start that with them. We overloaded our after-school program, loading all the time, loading all the time. They make sure that our students are getting the literacy and the math tutoring that they need, even during after school. And as I mentioned before, we got another partnership with EMP, who works with a lot of Fresno Unified School Districts as well too, that does literacy mentoring, which are able to pull some of our students out of class and really focus on seeing them grow on the literacy side of things. But all of our teachers are receiving coaching through our partnership with instruction partners. And like I mentioned, we've been chipping away at these students' growth since we started this school in 2021.
What kind of progress monitoring and interventions do you have at your school?
How much time we got?
The short version.
Well, that measure of academic progress is a 3-time-a-year assessment for us, and we test kinder through 5th grade, and then we also do these screeners, a K2 screener for our TK twice a year. We run data cycles around that data. It's really important.
Poor children are over here. They know children are in the audience, but they're going to keep rolling with the same questions.
And like where we're standing kind of in that line. Each of our teaching teams also has a diagnostic system that they work with. We can get really into the nerdy details if you want to. We've had a lot of, our students have been really thriving on. IXL has been our biggest kind of driver this year. Our instruction partners coaching, really focusing on 2nd grade through 5th grade ELA and math, has been a really interesting process because they're basically looking at exit ticket data of like local assessment data, and we have these presentations of learning at the end of every unit that is essentially an interdisciplinary unit of study that has reading, writing, speaking, math, and science worked into it. So I also just want to say, with like in less than 3 years, we almost tripled ELA scores on the SBAC. With a young teaching staff, a brand new school, 3rd graders coming in that first year, we weren't even fully enrolled until like March. Because as students were coming out of like the sort of lockdown and getting more comfortable with being in the sort of public sphere of public school, we had more time with them. And so, and I also would like to point out that in our year-to-year growth on our MAP assessment, our 4th and 5th graders, which came from somewhere else, are starting to tick up and growing faster than the pre-COVID norm.
Thank you. I was just interested in the specifics of improving literacy. Thank you for that. And last question is, how do you ensure that your hiring process protects the safety of your students?
This is not even...
Well, safety is our #1 concern, and we are hiring educators that are approaching their work as a restorative, like educator, practice educator. We are interested in making sure that we have
That's a question you ask when you're approving the school.
diversity represented across the grade level team.
Do you check backgrounds or references?
We have all of the live scan.
This is ridiculous.
The entire process that you have to clear a candidate. We check CTC. We check.
Past employers.
Pardon?
Like past employers.
Correct. Yes. And we have an HR department that we built out that runs lead on our like background clearances. And again, your staff, we have to go through and our charter review annually, you check off our employee files to make sure that we are following hiring processes.
These people are
that
just
our
delaying. They
teachers
don't
are
want to hear
credentialed,
from the community.
Right people are in the right places, and we're a place-based education school, and we have to be everywhere. So we have to make sure that our staff is trained to deal with first aid in non-school settings. So I feel like safety is number one, and we've got things to do, so we need the staff to be able to support that.
Thank you. Student trustee Pitcher.
I just wanted to say I'm very impressed about this thing. Any school, any new charter school that can teach kids hands-on learning, that they can go and apply to their respective middle and high schools, is something that's really good. I saw the presentation about the asthma levels in the Central Valley and the lack of trees in Southwest Fresno. Could you talk a little bit more about the environmental stewardship projects that you have currently at Golden Charter, or any that you have planned in the future?
We're both coming up there.
Specifically that would, benefit Southwest Fresno, for example, like planting trees and things like that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Trustee Pitcher. It's great for you to leave those comments. But what's interesting is when we decided to develop out this school, one of the questions that I always ask myself, if I wasn't an NFL football player, what else would I be? And I couldn't answer that question. So I wanted to develop a school that would give our students hands-on learning experiences and opportunities so that they can see themselves as the next engineers, the next scientists, the next architects, working those green jobs. Because we need to plant those seeds right now so that they can see themselves being that in the future. But some of the things that we're doing from an environmental stewardship standpoint, not only is we raising the tree equity score in Southwest Fresno that is at 39 right now, and if you go up to North Fresno near Woodward Park, that tree equity score is 99. So not only are we improving it by being able to plant over 100 plus trees in our 3 years of existence, but we've also put over 500 native milkweed plants in our community as well, including 2 waste stations at the Fresno Chaffee Zoo. But not only that, our students have been out to the San Joaquin River, who we have a partnership with as well too, and also done river cleanups to make sure that the turtles have a nice habitat out there in the San Joaquin River. But we also partner with Beautify Fresno to make sure that we're doing the work in the community to keep this area clean and demonstrate that stewardship behavior. So that is just a little bit of what we're doing. I could talk about our 3rd graders who is designing a magnetic floating train so that they can dilute the air pollution by having this magnetic force traveling through as they're working as engineers. And I can also talk about our 5th graders who have just addressed the food apartheid that is happening in Southwest Fresno. Just so you know that we live in the #1 place in the world for agriculture, doing $8 billion annually. And when you talk about fresh produce in Southwest Fresno, it costs an average of $1.30 more than what it costs in North Fresno. So our 5th graders were able to host a free farmers market working with BIPOC farmers to provide fresh produce to our families. And since we've done that civic engagement project, every single month we're providing fresh produce to families that don't have access to that type of produce. So that's just a little bit.
Yes.
Student trustee Lua.
I don't have a question, but I would definitely want to just congratulate you guys on just the hard work you guys are doing. Great job as a student. That is like, I'm blown away. On top of that, it's like how much
Oh my gosh.
you
guys. That was nice of her.
We're growing every year. We're always hiring. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I would like you to talk a little bit about your suspension rate. What would you like to know, Trustee Thomas? What are the statistics over the last 3.5 years? 3.78 years? 2.86, to be exact. We have seen a 2% uptick in suspensions. It is definitely a mind shift practice that we're working on. We have these golden rules, right? Not a bunch of don't do this and don't do that, but it's like give respect, be obligated, love learning, be dedicated, elevated, never quit, right? So we are dealing with students that often don't have a lot of models of how to do nonviolent communication, how to handle problems in a way of talking through those.
Every school.
And we also are working with educators that some are coming from other places that don't necessarily have this practice. And we're working with families really closely. What I was really excited about is when we looked at our suspension rate after the dashboard, it's something we talk about regularly with our staff. Because we are not we're trying to be a paradigm shift not only in academics, but also in social emotional being. We are
I'd like you
not
to see
going to
that.
be a school to prison pipeline at Golden Charter Academy.
Asked about suspension.
So we're doing a lot of heart and mind changes, and I'm going to just speak from the heart there. We worked really closely with Fresno County, their teacher development pipeline around restorative practices, an amazing educator, Leslie Kelly, who's now at Tulare County. And to really try to understand circle practice, to understand that like the consequences of a behavior is the breach of a relationship with the teacher and the relationship with your classmates. So when we were kind of thinking about how are we going to address that suspension rate from the dashboard, we could have hired a dean, but instead we hired another counselor. We hired a restorative practices intervention coordinator who just started this week. We hired 2 behavior technicians, and we're about to add 2 more. We're starting to engage families. In fact, there's 2 of my staff members back here that, after a very teary conversation with some families around how do we not keep our hands on each other to solve our problems, about how much we need to really engage with families, and to now see our teachers and our learning guides starting to step up with let me host that circle. Let me host that. So this is real-time work. It's still a lower suspension rate than most African American students. We have an issue with boys, and so I think we're also trying to figure out what are things that we can do in our wraparound services in those classrooms. How can we make sure our learning guides understand also more effective nonviolent communication strategies and conflict resolution? And I assure the board and the trustees here, again, we will not be a school to prison pipeline at Golden Charter Academy.
Thank you. So with that, I'm going to say to Fresno Unified staff and to Golden Charter staff, you all were well prepared. You did a great job, and you gave a golden presentation. Thank you.
That was nice.
Thank you. Trustee Islas.
Thank you for just letting me come back, because there were some staff questions that I failed to ask the first time, but I did just want to clarify, there was an impressive number, Mr. Golden, that you mentioned in terms of financing that you have received, and I just wanted to make sure, I'll beg your forgiveness, it's midnight where I am, so I'm getting pretty tired here, may not be hearing clearly. But I just wanted you to confirm that you said you received about $2 million from the Central Valley New Market Tax Credit. Is that correct?
No, that is not correct. What I said is we have over $22 million allocated towards this project, and those come from various different entities that is supporting this work, both locally and nationally. But that is new market tax credits. I did not name my sources of where I'm getting those funds from, but we do have signed term sheets and also have investors that have invested in our $22 million project already.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
It is now 9:17.
These questions are really for staff next. I don't know if Maria is there or if Felicia, you would be able to respond, but in the report that was provided, there was a charter petition review matrix that was blank. It was not scored. And so I was wondering the purpose of providing that without your scoring.
Originally, the purpose was to provide a model for what our district review team uses to review the petitions for charters. It was intended to accompany the report of findings so that when we mentioned that we used the matrix, that you would have an idea of how it functioned. It wasn't presented with the intention to share data from the school. However, we do have that available for the board if you would like to see it. It is a model that we have adapted and adopted from Fresno County Superintendent of Schools. It is used specifically to review the petition. However, there is a comment section that we added at the bottom of the form, and we have systematically collected the feedback from all of our team members over the year of each visit. And with each visit, we review the feedback with the charter schools. We have a series of 3 meetings, one for planning meeting, the actual visit, and the feedback meeting. And in that feedback meeting, we review the fully completed matrix.
Thank you. I would appreciate your offer of seeing the scored matrix. And what I found valuable was the measures that you looked at. And I want to come back to that because I do think they're pertinent to this conversation. But there was in your charter team review report, I did notice that there was a matrix or a table included that was pulling in some of the components of the scoring review matrix into your report. And my first question there is that I see that some of the team review comments did not fully justify the scoring that was being given. And so what I want to cite for you as an example of what I'm speaking about is on page 12, where it talks about the measurable pupil outcomes. It talked about sort of the criteria, the on-site goals, the evidence of the data, but it didn't really speak to the outcomes achieved. And if I go back to your review criteria on page 5, it says specifically, the measurable pupil outcomes identified for use of the charter school pupil outcomes for the purposes of this part means the extent to which all pupils of the charter school demonstrate that they have attained the skills, knowledge, and attitudes specific as the goals in the charter school's educational program. Below that is more clarification that says the mention by which pupil progress in meeting those pupil outcomes is to be measured. To the extent practical, the method for measuring pupil outcomes for state priorities shall be consistent with the way information is reported on a school accountability report card. So again, it didn't, your information that you provided didn't speak to any of that, right? So I'm just wondering why that was not present.
And you're referring to the report findings that did not include that?
The review team comments that you provided, yes.
Oh, Susan's going to address that.
Thank you, Trustee Islas. So that reference there is speaking to a situation where it would be the granting or the denial of a charter or on renewal. And if you look on page 4, this is quoting 47605, and it's stating that the governing board shall not deny a petition, so that would be in the case of, granting or denying the establishment of a charter school unless it makes written factual findings that set forth these various things. And one of them would be if the petition did not contain reasonably comprehensive descriptions of all of the following. And then on the matrix that you cited, this charter review, this report of findings is reiterating that the charter petition does have a sufficient, reasonably comprehensive description of the measurable outcomes. So
it has a description, but it's not speaking to the actual outcomes itself, is the point, right? Like, so there is not sufficient data that's being provided to us based on what is said should be provided.
No, that wasn't analyzed this is material revision for the increase in pupils and then the facilities. So this is a reiteration that the charter school petition itself does have reasonably comprehensive, because they made revisions, throughout to bring the charter petition up current with the law. the entirety of the petition was reviewed and confirmed that what the charter petition has in it is compliant with the law. So all of the elements are reasonably comprehensive in their description. So the petition itself has an entire section on what the measurable outcomes are, and that's where you can find how the charter school intends to measure their outcomes. And then so right now, the charter review team is affirming that the petition contains what it needs to contain. And then on renewal, there's a whole new renewal process that the state of California has. They've changed it up a bit. And so there's different tiers, etc. But one of the things that you would look at if we were at a renewal would be, did the charter do what they said they were going to do? And that's where you're going to see the detailed information that I think you're asking about right now. That's when you're going to see it on renewal. Like, this is what the charter said that they were going to do. This is how they said they were going to measure outcomes, and this is what they did. And then the curriculum expert on the charter review team would, place their comments in there, and that would be a more detailed analysis. Right now, as I mentioned, this was just confirming that the petition has all the elements that it needs to have.
I can appreciate that, but I'll go on to further on this table. There are a number of sections where no comments are listed. So there is no confirmation one way or another or justification about the government structure is blank, yet they checked meets criteria. The qualifications met by individuals is blank, and yet it was checked they meet criteria. The means by which the school charter will achieve a balance of racial and ethnic, all G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, they're blank, and yet they have checks that say meets criteria. So as a board member, what I'm saying to staff is, please don't submit reports that are incomplete, that don't contain, at minimal, information that justifies why the scoring is being given.
Well, as I mentioned, this is a reiteration of the charter petition, that all of those sections, and each of those sections are descriptions that are required to be in the petition itself. So we're not on, this is not a process for
She's just
granting
delaying
petition,
it.
which you would have more detailed information, and it's also not a process for
She
renewal.
already asked her
So
questions.
the charter review team did look at the revisions to the charter petition. And
I'm sorry, Ms. Hatmaker, I'm looking at a report that literally says that the subject is the report of factual findings regarding the Golden Charter Academy petition for
She's really
material
worried about
revision
children. We
requests.
have children in
So
the
it's
audience,
not a
and they know
report
it.
about their original petition. It is a report about findings in relation to the material review request.
that's correct.
Thank you. And so I'm wanting to call up these items because what I want to ensure is that we are doing our due diligence in terms of reviewing what is required, and we're relying on staff to provide us with what's required. And when I'm seeing a report that has a lot of blank places in it with check marks that say meets criteria, it is not giving me as a board member, and I would argue none of my colleagues, the information that gives us confidence that it is in fact there.
Well, Trustee Eastlis, the two revisions that are material that's before the board right now are the pupil increase and the facility.
Right.
And so you're not going to see comments. Many of those sections were not changed at all.
Ms. Hatmaker, then that shouldn't have been included. If it wasn't relevant to the material revision, then why include it, right? So I'm just...
They do submit the entire petition again, and so the entirety of the petition is submitted, and so the information for the board is this petition, as submitted, contains reasonably comprehensive descriptions of all of those factors. And again,
yeah, but that's not mentioned. That would have been a great comment instead of leaving things blank, right? Like that would have given, we checked it, this is why we were rating it as meeting the criteria, but that wasn't there. It was simply not present. So I appreciate you trying to cover and give justification, but again, there's a lack of information that's being provided here. And I just want to call that
It's
out.
not
and
relevant
ask staff
to the
improve on
petitions.
that. I don't think it's fair to Golden Charter Academy. I do think this was probably information that was given to staff, and staff just failed to substantiate it in their review and reflection.
It's not even relevant.
So I want to go back to
oh my God.
sort of my motion that I'm offering, and I want to say that it is not a motion that I am making lightly. I do think that Golden Charter Academy has very admirable intent, accomplishment. It's a worthy school. I'm not denying that. My question was really about why this needs to happen now. You know, why are we expanding
because there's a waiting list
when there isn't necessarily an expansion at their current site? The new site won't be in effect until later on in a subsequent year, and that really is pending approvals by the city, right? Like, I feel like this could be an error for us to give authorization
this
when
is so
in fact,
ridiculous.
the city is ultimately who is going to decide whether this can be built and constructed as proposed, right? So my motion would be for us just simply to postpone it. I'm not saying to deny it. I'm simply saying let's postpone it until we
already
see
knew that.
The improvement on the measures as outlined in the criteria. They will be due for review.
She said that already.
In later on.
You said that
anyways,
already.
At the end of their existing petition.
She said this already.
And if we get confirmation that it's approved, then there is no reason for us not to want them to allow to move to a different address. So my motion is simply just to postpone until that information is available to us and confirmed.
Okay, so I have a motion to postpone approval. I'm sorry, one more.
Yeah, again, just a reminder, we need to get the public comment.
Yes.
Right.
Trustee Thomas, yes. Ms. Hatmaker, can you
They waited
explain
till everybody
one
was
more time,
tired.
in layman's terms, what's needed for this particular revision? This is not a charter petition that's being.
Right.
Can you just explain that one more time?
Exactly.
Because I don't think I understood.
Okay, so Golden Academy Charter is requesting a material revision that was triggered by the memorandum of understanding.
This is now
So
the
it's
fourth
not
time
a
they've said
material
this.
revision that's triggered by statute. For example, if they wanted to add a facility, then the statutory scheme requires that to go before the board as a material revision. Here we have a memorandum of understanding where it was outlined, you know, if these things occur, President Unified School District Board wants to have that information come before the board so it can consider it. And so the only thing before the board is, you know, the approval of the address for the new facility and the pupil increase. With respect to the report of findings, the reason we went through, the board has already approved. The descriptions were already comprehensive.
Yes.
When they submitted the charter, they did update the petition to be compliant with some current laws that have changed and been added since that. So we did review each one. So not every section warranted a comment, and so it is Trustee Eastlist's comment is noted, and we can simply indicate, you know, no, there is nothing to comment in that regard, so that it's not left blank and people are left questioning. But the consideration before this board is the facility change and the pupil increase. So,
And is it your expert opinion that they've met the requirements for the revision?
I have seen nothing to indicate that they haven't met it, so the board would need to, you know, discuss after public comments, you know, their thought process before they make their decision. But everything that they have done is compliant, and that's why there's a recommendation from the entire charter review team, which includes myself, of approval of both items.
Perfect. And Mr. Golden, can you explain one more time the relationship between the city and the idea that you need this petition, you chose to do this petition now. Can you explain to us one more time so we understand what is happening between the city and Golden Charter building?
Absolutely. As I mentioned before, we'll have a by right project, which means that we bought that property, so we have the right to build a school there due to the zoning that is outlined in that section. And also on top of that, Trustee Thomas, in our originally approved charter petition for 6 years, we did state that we were developing a state-of-the-art facility adjacent to the Fresno Chaffee Zoo. So this is another way that we're meeting the requirements that we said we were going to do inside of our charter petition.
Do you have anything further for us?
I just want to, come before you all and let you know that this enrollment increase, this is going to allow us to serve more students now. Not when we get to our new facility. We're looking to add another TK class of 20 students and 20 students. That's a total of 40 students to our TK class. And we're looking to add 6 more students per grade level, 3 students per class. And then, as I mentioned, we're currently going through planning right now. We have a whole team that is monitoring this project every single day, this Right project. I ask that you guys vote in favor of this. Let us continue to move our mission forward. And when it's time for us to come back for our renewal in 2027, if we haven't made improvements that we said we were going to do, you guys got the grounds to deny this charter petition.
Right.
But we have a 6-year approved charter petition, and all we're asking is to serve 78 more students over the course of the next 3 years and move into the location that we originally said we were going to be in our approved charter petition.
Thank you, Mr. Golden.
Thank you. Yes.
19 individuals seeking to address the board on this item. You'll each have 2 minutes to address the board, and we'll start with, and I'd like
Although
you
the
to
board
please keep
took
the
10
applause
minutes
to a minimum.
each person.
We're on a tight schedule for tonight.
Now we're on a tight schedule.
Stanky, and followed by Melanie Smith, to be followed by Jeremiah Smith. Josh, you can line up.
So they knew that these children were going to be talking, and they kept it going till 9:36, knowing that there was children in the audience. That's how much they care about children. Go ahead, you go. She's probably tired.
Hello, my name is Jeremiah Timothy Smith, and I'm a first grader at Golden Charter Academy. Golden Charter is a special place because I can use my own voice when I grow. I see a problem in the world, grown-ups find a way to help it fix it, but they don't solve it for me. We are dedicated to nature and others. We get a really good education. We get to show our learning with dancing, music, and writing stories. We are scientists, we are engineers, we are narrators, we are authors, we are artists. At Golden Charter, I make the world a better place by my thinking, because I don't just keep it to myself. I share it with others so they can join in making our world a better place. We love our learning. We love our school.
Thank you.
I'm really happy to be here today in front of you. I'm super proud to be a part of Golden Charter Academy, not only as a parent, but as a teacher. When I asked my son, when we're sitting in this room, how do you feel? Do you feel nervous? He said, no. I'm a Golden Guardian. I've done this before. I've stood in front of people before, and I have a voice and I know how to use it. And he does, and he uses it, and my students use it as readers and writers, and they are growing, and they are working hard, and we are changing the world because our kids have a voice, and they're not waiting for grown-ups to save it, they're saving it today.
Yes. Thank you.
Donetta Barber, followed by Kimmy Aquina, followed by Valerie Garcia. If you could make your way to the front, please.
Good evening. My name is Donetta Barber, and I stand before you as a proud parent to share why Golden Charter Academy is not just a school. We are but a beacon of excellence in our community. When I made the decision to move my daughter, Malia, to Golden Charter Academy, I was seeking more than just a school. I was seeking a community and a family. Golden Charter Academy has truly exceeded my expectations in every aspect. One of the most remarkable achievements since Malia joined Golden Charter has been the significant improvement in her test scores. The dedication of the teachers and staff to academic excellence is evident, and Malia's progress too is a testament of their commitment. But it's not just about test scores. Malia's behavior and character have also undergone a positive transformation since joining Golden. The school's emphasis on character development and positive reinforcement has helped her become more confident, more responsible, and more respectful. This holistic approach to education is something I deeply appreciate as a parent. What truly sets Golden Charter Academy apart is its focus on environmental stewardship. The school's commitment to sustainability and environmental education has had a profound impact on Malia. She has developed a deep appreciation for the environment and understands the importance of taking care of our planet. This is something that will stick with her for a lifetime. But perhaps the most significant reason I chose to move Malia to Golden Charter Academy is the sense of community and belonging that this school fosters. Golden Charter Academy is not just a school. It is a community of caring individuals who work hard together to support and uplift each other.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Valeria Garcia.
Hello, my name is Kimmy Aquina. I'm a second grader at GCA. What brought us to GCA when she was a kindergartner, so she's in our third year, unfortunately, was we became really disheartened with our neighborhood resident at school. And so GCA actually kept my daughter in Fresno Unified. After our first meeting at the school, I saw her go through her new class with her head held high. We both felt warmth and enthusiasm there that was so remarkably different. And when your kindergartner comes home talking to you about blueprints for a habit that they're designing, or what it means to think like a scientist, wow. I can't tell you how many of the staff know her by name. It feels like they all do. I know she is cared for, and I know she's safe there. And I know that's what makes learning possible. They also know me, and there's a constant invitation to invite families into a partnership that's going to benefit her education. It's about a 20-minute drive to school, which is not convenient. Most days we also pick up a couple of kids to take home on the drive back. Their car isn't running and mom can't afford the repairs. I don't even have to ask them, how was your day? Or what did you learn? The 7-year-old is already jumping in to tell me about the community housing project he is working on or what he learned at the zoo. Most kids, when they're asked what they learned at school, probably say nothing, or they shrug. I have seen eyes
widen of educators from across the valley as they come visit our campus from other districts, wanting more for their own schools. They know what education can be. They just haven't seen it or they haven't imagined that was happening here in Fresno. And it's because GCA isn't educating in a vacuum. They're showing our children that the world, their world, is their classroom. My daughter isn't just learning about trees from books or screens. She is walking amongst the giant trees with her teacher in the Kings Canyon National Park. And she is in complete awe of them.
Thank you. Thank you. Valeria Garcia. Andrea Garcia. Taft Wilson, followed by Zalia Bush, followed by Carla Manuel.
Good evening. I am Zalia Bush, and I am in the 5th grade at Golden Charter Academy. I have been here since day one, and let me tell you, it's been amazing. Golden Charter Academy is like my second home. I love it because it's not just a regular school. We get the opportunity to learn in a way that's super cool and fits me just right. Sometimes I feel like the school was designed for me and my learning style. We don't just read stuff from boring textbooks. We actually go out and experience learning hands-on. Also, as environmental students, we get the opportunity to study real issues in space to advocate for the earth. With these experiences, I have planted trees in the community, participated in multiple Beautify Fresno events, as well as educated guests, friends, and family on issues like water contamination, food justice, green energy, and so many more. Golden matters to me because it gives me the opportunity to love by having hands-on experiences. I feel like GCA provides an environment where I can be myself. I can explore things I love, like dance, step team, and writing stories. It's so much fun. And guess what? I'm not just getting smarter, I'm getting better at everything. I feel stronger every year, not just the school stuff, but making friends and being me. So yeah, Golden Charter Academy rocks. Thanks for listening and for being part of our awesome school.
Thank you.
Woo! Good job.
Good evening. My name is Taft Wilson, and I'm not only a parent at GCA, but I'm also a teacher. As my daughter Zalia has so beautifully expressed, Golden Charter Academy represents more than just a school. It's a gateway to a world of enriched learning experiences and personal growth. It's evident that access to this kind of education, one that nurtures individual passions and fosters a sense of community and environmental responsibility, is invaluable. Tonight, as we reflect on Zalia's journey and the countless others like hers, let us remember the power of access. Access to innovation, educational approaches, access to opportunities for hands-on learning, and access to space where every child feels empowered to be themselves and pursue their goals and dreams. That is your better and your different. If that's not voting, I don't know what it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Woo!
Followed by Chantel Ocampo. If you could come to the front, please.
Hello everyone, my name is Tarina and I'm an employee at Golden Charter Academy. I also have a daughter that's been a student since year one. The reason I chose to work at Golden Charter is because I love working closely with children and I thought about how important it is for children to see a person of color in the education system. I started working at Golden Charter in February 2021 when the school was still in year one. It's been the best journey for me and my daughter these past few years. I see my daughter flourish and excel at everything she does while at Golden Charter Academy. GCA matters to me and my family because education is an important part of our lives. Please allow us to expand in order to offer these unique educational experiences to more children.
Hi,
everyone. My name is Chanel. I am a 5th grader at Golden Charter Academy. GCA is the most amazing school I have been to. It finds ways to learn. We go other places no other school gets to go to. We do hands-on activity and we get to learn new things every day, especially about science. The reason I think we should be able to allow for more students to attend GCA is so that they can have the same great opportunities. Our children should get to experience the zoo like we do and work with our communities to help build them up, and no other schools allow us to do like GCA does.
Yes. Woo. Ms. Roberts, please make your way to the front over here on the other side of the sign language interpreters. Heather Brutowitz, I'm probably not saying that right. Dan Zach. Come on up. First of all, thank you for your service to our community. I'm Heather Redowitz, literacy faculty at Fresno Pacific University, mother of 3, 2 daughters at Edison High School and 1 at Baird Middle School. I'm also a literacy consultant for Golden Charter. And Rod Edmonds was an educator and a pioneer of education research and dedicated his life to investigating infective schools. At the end of his life, he said this: "We can, whenever and wherever we choose, successfully teach all children whose schooling is of interest to us. Whether or not we do it must finally depend on how we feel about the fact that we haven't so far." I've lived in and worked for Fresno schools for 19 years. For 19 years, I've watched the data for Black and brown students in Fresno County skim the bottom of the x-axis. And I've been appalled that everyone around seems to be okay with underperforming kids of color. Golden Charter is not okay with that. The fact is that we have not served these students well. And Robert Golden has decided to pick up this torch and do our jobs, to serve the students we have been content to overlook. In good faith, we cannot throw down spikes to block progress, whether this spike comes in the form of an injunction, a hold, a restricted access, or a vote of no confidence, or, in this instance, a bifurcation. In education, we make decisions, as Trustee Davis said, we make decisions based on what's best for students, not what serves our political, fiscal, or business interests. Golden Academy is striving to serve the students that we have been willing to ignore. We have a choice here. We have a choice, and that choice depends on how we feel about the fact that we haven't served these students, these 646 students so far. We have a choice to promote justice, and we have a choice to to make the crooked places straight. Thank you. Thank you. Followed by Dr. Andrew Barfield.
Good evening. It's good to be back up here before you again. I'm Dan Zach. I'm an urban planning consultant here in Fresno, and I am helping. Oh, there we go. Again, I'm Dan Zach. I'm an urban planning consultant here in Fresno, and I'm helping the Garden Charter Academy get their approvals from the planning department. You've already heard a lot about that, but what I'd like to just reiterate during the public comment here is that, I've been through in 27 years in city planning a lot of processes that have been very hairy and very fraught with uncertainty. This is not one of those. As has been said multiple times, schools allowed by right in this zone. And what that means is, in every zone of the city, there are certain uses that are just not allowed. And there are certain uses that are conditionally allowed, meaning they'll decide case by case, and the answer might be no, depending on whether it's a good fit for the neighborhood. Other uses are permitted by right. And then that means you're allowed to do that as long as you meet certain physical standards for how far the building can be set back from the road, how much parking is provided, how tall it can be, so on and so forth. If you meet those physical requirements, then you're approved. And that is the class that we are in. We are permitted by right, so we're just working through those physical standards to make sure we meet all of those. And it's, like I said, very routine. It's a fun project to be associated with. I'm very confident that we'll be able to work through the last remaining issues. Staff has been very helpful and very responsive and great to work with, and we'll have our approvals very shortly, and then they can move on. And then last thing I'll say is that we're also concurrently working through our building permit review, which is for safety standards in the building code, and that is being done in tandem to compress our timeline so that we can move more quickly through.
Thank you.
Good evening to all of you. It's so good to see you. Thank you for what you do in serving. I'm up here as a community member. Everybody's very well aware of where I work and the work that I do. But today I'm here as a community member because I have a great niece that was in the Bullard tier of elementary schools. And she was not thriving. And she was told that she was fed when she was not. The level of expectation was very low for her because no one in that particular space wanted to give her the attention and the resources necessary to grow. Thank God that she was able to become a student at Golden Charter Academy. I've never seen my niece happy to read. I've never seen my niece proud of her academic achievements until she attended GCA. She's now a 5th grader and looking forward to moving ahead. So my question to you is this, as you make the decision to approve this. Trustee Johnson Rosas, you said better and different. It has arrived. And it is golden.
Yes.
It is gold, it is pure, and that's what our children deserve. Pure education. Not facts, not data, just the truth in learning. And if this board, and I know most of you, so I know you love kids, and I'm grateful for my former superintendent, Jim Nuvino, who taught me, if it's not good for kids, don't do it. But if it is, get out the way. So
yes. 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 Yes.
Okay, so let's go back to the motion from Trustee Islas, which was, can you repeat that, Trustee Islas?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say that I really appreciate hearing from everybody. I'm very, it is very heartwarming to hear all of the support.
Every time she gets on the podium, she takes forever.
The passion from Mr. Golden and all
She's the reason why we're still in here at 9:56.
I again want to reiterate that I am not interested in denying. I am interested in what is also our responsibility in ensuring that we are approving charter schools that are providing the best education possible. And I'm saying that with an eye on the standards that we ourselves are judged on as a school district. And the evidence is clear in that regard that there are areas of growth that are needed in their academic achievement. I think that using data can be manipulated. We can use all kinds of rubrics to change that, but when we compare it to comparable schools, they're still below. I think the data is also there in terms of absenteeism as having higher rates in comparison to comparable schools.
She said this all already. She's already said all of this.
I'm saying that we should wait to see some improvement before we
this is the 4th time she said this.
Authorizing. In relation to the building, no one can guarantee that it is going to be done in 2025. And I think even if we all vote to approve it, the fact of the matter is that it's not within our jurisdiction to ensure the building. It is under the jurisdiction of the city. And as we know it right now, there are processes on hold until further information and details that are needed are provided. So I'm suggesting that we should postpone until we can see some improvement. I'm suggesting that we should postpone until we can get more confirmation about the assurance of the building and its construction. That's my motion.
So the motion is to postpone approval of both items. Is that correct?
If I
Yes.
may, President Woodruff,
Sure.
I just want, I think it might be valuable for the board to get clarification of the premise of the motion. I would ask maybe that Susan Hatmaker can clarify again. The scope of the motion or the scope of the item tonight on the agenda is narrow. It's not a review of the performance.
Thank you.
No, I'm not suggesting it is, Brian, and I don't need Susan to come back up to reiterate what she's already said. What I'm saying is that we should not be motioning to approve expansion or move without seeing some evidence of progress, right? Like I do think that is within our jurisdiction, right? That we are ultimately an educational institution.
This lady is
looking at
crazy.
improving outcomes. I'm not saying that
She's
they
very
can't. I'm not saying that they
egotistical.
won't. We've also heard that
Straight
postponing does not
narcissist.
mean any jeopardy to Golden Charter.
Because she's
Academy.
been
It's gonna
saying the
continue
same
to do what
thing
it's been
for
doing.
the
And
whole
I
time. She's
look
been saying
forward
the same
to
thing.
seeing their continuing progress and improvement in the same standards that we have to meet, right?
Okay,
She's
so
wrong.
the motion is to postpone approval of this item. Do I have a second? I second.
Wow. Yeah, we all see it.
Yes. Board President, Board Clerk Davis? No. Member Casares? No. Member Levine?
No.
Member Islas?
Yes.
Of course.
Member Johnson Rosas?
No.
Member Thomas? No. Motion does not carry.
Yes! All right! Woo!
We have a motion from Trustee Casares to approve. Second. With a second from Clerk Davis. Can we have a roll call vote, please? Board President Woodruff? Abstain. Board Clerk Davis? Yes. Member Casares? Yes. Member Levine?
Yes.
Member Islas?
I will abstain.
Member Jonathan Rosas?
Yes.
Member Thomas? Yes. Motion carries. Motion
That's what's up! Woo! Yes! Woo!
Thank you. We're going to go back to our board superintendent communications because we moved this item to the front to save time.
All right, y'all, it's it.
Back in our meeting to the beginning of the agenda to board superintendent communications.
Big up to GCA.
Trustee Casares.
The Hoover leadership team, out of our the presentation they provided regarding additional recycle bins in Hoover and we need to replace them where it's actually in the way of our where our children have. I want to thank them. It's intentional that we listen to our kids as they're trying to be, stewards of our
Get in your way.
and they have these great ideas for our schools, and we just listen to them. And so I just want to thank our staff that's been working with our Hoover students that are in the leadership position.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I gotta add, we had our Hoover Literacy Night yesterday. We had 3,956.
Thank you. Clerk Davis? I would just like to congratulate our new interim superintendent.
Y'all passed y'all big time, man. Y'all meet on time, all right? Thank you.
So I'm live. You want to say anything to everybody?
Fresno, we 2-0 versus the board. We 2-0, and the best is yet to come. I promise you, we bring something special here on Thursday. I promise.
Yes. I was very confident.
Y'all golden. This class right here, they gonna change
Robert. Good job, Jeremiah. Good job, Frank. I watched some race over. I never delivery.
ASAP.
Yes, sir.
Listen, ASAP.
I got you.
Abundance of support, y'all. Look at that. right, y'all, I'm out. This is amazing. Congratulations. Congratulations. It's a lot of hard work, and you did it. We did it. We did it. It got passed. It got passed. All right, y'all. How do you feel, Mama Golden? Good to see you, honey. Yes. Yes. Clearly walking around like, where do we This is a huge win. There we go. Yes.
Now it's only up from here. Shout out to my guy Jim Weber, Director of Finance. I've been knowing Jim for over 3 years, and it's the first time I'm seeing him. 3 years, the first time we ever met in person. Good time, good day. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for the day. Thank you. Team, I appreciate y'all. But guess what? Tomorrow, we got some exciting news at the staff meeting. Yes. Big time news at staff meeting. They're Friday, we had Dave and Buster.
All right. Celebrate. That golden.
And every single one of y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We just getting started. Yeah. We got the green light to take it to the moon.